Assalamu alaikum. My name is Daniel. Converted to Islam about 7 years ago. Basically, my family, they're Catholic, so that when I was young, they took me to church, but they didn't teach me anything about religion at all. They thought it would just be something you learn by yourself, you know. Well, it worked out. So like, I heard about Jesus and a little bit about God, but in church, they didn't really talk about God at all. They just talked about Jesus and the good things he did. He was a good person, but it just seemed to stop there, you know, like nothing else. There's no relevance to Jesus' stories to today, you know. So growing up, I was very confused, you know, like what to think, how to act, you know, these sorts of things. And of course, I'm always wondering, like, what's the point of life? Why am I here? You know? And when I did ask anybody, nobody could give me an answer. You know? They just make a joke out of it. I asked someone, what's the meaning of life? They say, 42. You know, like the movie, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I have no idea. And even in church, they didn't talk about the afterlife at all. It was just like, you know, stories. That's it. And songs, which I didn't like. So, yeah, even went to Catholic scripture in primary school, but again, they didn't really tell us anything at all. It's just like draw pictures of Jesus or something, you know, color this in, just always the same. And then later, as we grew up, as my brother and sister too, we got really bored of church. It was just like, you know, as you see in The Simpsons, you know, you're just sitting there listening and so boring, you want to fall asleep. You know, so we sort of protested to our parents, and our parents caved in and they said, you know what, if you don't want to go to church, you don't have to, you know, it's up to you. And we're like, okay, sure, great. So at that point, you know, I sort of didn't have any link to spiritual teachings or anything like that. So it's just basically do what you like. And I guess I tried doing what I liked, you know, like, you know, all the things that popular kids do, especially in high school, you know. But I was always a bit shy, you know. I couldn't really break into that. So in a way, Allah saved me from, you know, falling into temptation. And so in high school, I met some Muslims for the first time. And in fact, in year 7, there was another brother who became Muslim in year 7. You know, he's an Australian guy. And up until that point, I only thought, you know, Islam, what? That's like something for Arabs, you know. So it was like sort of, you know, changed my perspective a bit, like Islam, what's that? But still, I didn't know anything about Islam, really. And I moved on and I found another group of friends and we were just sort of having fun. And then later in school years, when I say fun, I mean clean fun, you know, like not anything like the popular kids. Right? But as time went on, these friends they started to move into these activities like drinking, drugs, and all that. And I sort of went, you know, like I had desires to do it, but at the same time I was like held back, you know, like it's not right, you know, like if you get drunk, you're like an idiot, and you know, drunk people do all the stupidest things. And so I stopped from that, and I basically distanced myself from those people. And then I moved back towards these Muslim friends in high school. Just, you know, just not because they're Muslim or anything, just, you know, to hang out. And we sort of had the same sort of sense of humor, you know, just making jokes and having a laugh, you know. Yeah, so then, at that time the HSC was sort of building up, and I was just getting a bit frustrated with life, like, because it's so stressful, this, that, the teachers are pushing you, you know, you see the smart people, they're just breezing through, you know, doing everything right, and you think, man, what's wrong with me, you know, like, why am I having such a hard time, you know, and I was just sort of very depressed, you can, I don't know if I say depressed, but upset, you know, with my life, and disappointed, like it's not turning out to be anything. As far as I could see, there's just study, get a job, live, and die, and that's it. And I wanted, you know, like, come on. Life just can't be about working 9 to 5, and then on the weekend do whatever you want, and that's it. You know, no progress. Just couldn't understand, you know. So I started to slack off in school, you know, just do as minimal as I can, just, you know, basically do other stuff to keep my mind busy, you know, like video games, you know. I spent a lot of time playing video games, and just, you know, like maybe 12 hours a day just playing. It's just like, you know, you're in another universe and you don't have to think about any of these problems. But eventually, you know, once you turn off the game or whatever, you realize you still got the problem, you know, but, you know, your questions about life and it was around that time I just noticed a few things about my Muslim friends as opposed to my non-Muslim friends, you know, just like, you know, praying, fasting, well, not so much praying, but at least, you know, they don't eat pork, they don't swear, they don't drink alcohol, you know, and they've sort of got a different sort of modesty, you know, which is totally unlike mainstream. And then one time I went to a friend's house for like a party or something, and Muslim friends, you know, and that's when I sort of first experienced something concrete about Islam. First of all, the brothers were set up different, in a different room to the girls, you know. So first of all, you know, you're relaxed, you know, you don't have to think about, well, you know, this girl's checking me out, how do I look at this, that, you know. So, you know, I was at ease. And then, after lunch or around that time, the brothers, they got up, they all made wudu, and they started praying, you know. And I was like, hey, you know, what's that? And the thing I was looking for was an idol, you know, like a statue or something. Because there's, you know, sort of movements, you think like idol worship, you know, but there's nothing there. So I'm like, well, they must be worshipping God, you know, that's the only explanation. You know, but at the same time, I was still a bit shy, I didn't want to say anything, and I just sort of forgot about it. And then it was maybe a couple of months later, I just, you know, with the study and the HSC and everything, I just got so stressed, and I was just like, stuff it, who cares, you know. And then I woke up one day, not really happy, you know, and just went to the supermarket to buy something, and then I looked down and saw the those celebrity magazines, you know, like famous people, you know, the rich and famous, the actors. They're supposed to be the happiest people on earth. But I just looked at them and just like thinking like, you know, if I want to be like them, have money and be famous and that, but at the same time, you know, some of them kill themselves, some of them destroy their lives with drugs, you know, and I just like, I'm thinking, nah, you know what, stuff it, I'm not, why bother do something that's just gonna harm yourself more, you know? And then I started thinking like, well, if I'm not gonna, you know, aim for that, which seemed like the only thing to do in life at the time, well, I must choose another way in life, you know? So I was just sort of thinking like, what's the opposite of, you know, this? And then I was thinking about Islam. You know, I don't know why, I didn't know anything about Islam really, but, you know, I guess Allah guided me to think about Islam, you know, at that time. So after that day, I went to my friend and asked him, you know, like, how do you become Muslim, what's Islam about, this, that, and he then told me about Islam, like, you know, and it was exactly what I've been looking for. Because even as a, you know, as a Catholic, yeah, I used to think like, okay, we had Noah in that time and Jesus in that time, so where's the Prophet today, you know? And then my friend, he told me about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and I'm just like, wow, that's, you know, he's the final messenger, his messenger is intact, everything's preserved, you know, and he's, you know, his message is the one until the day of judgment. I'm like, wow, you know, like, there it is. That's pretty much what I've been looking for, you know. And then, you know, it took a few more months, like talking on the phone, this, that, sort of, you know, get rid of all the doubts and whatnot. You know, a few minor issues here and there. But one of the other things that sort of, I guess, gave me certainty was the Quran. You know, my friend, he recited to me Surah Al-Fatiha, which, you know, first he told me the meanings, right? And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, you know, it sounds pretty deep, this, that. And then he started reciting, you know, and I was like, nah, man. I mean, even, you know, not to compare it to poetry, but, you know, like, just say you want to say something in a very nice way, you know, and with rhymes and everything. It normally turns out being the content-wise a load of rubbish, you know. So I was like, how can this deep meaning be combined with this recitation at the same time? It's like, no way, man. It's got to be, you know, it's got to be from God. It's unbelievable that anybody can just sit down and, like, you know, sort of make the Quran up themselves, you know. So yeah, eventually I was just convinced, you know, it's the right thing to do, and, you know, Islam is the truth, you know, and if I want to save myself from hellfire, I've got no choice but to become Muslims, you know. So I just called up my friend, I went to his house and, you know, took the Shahada, and it was like, you know, I know it sounds cliche, but it was like a boulder was on my shoulders and it was gone. You know, it was just, yeah, lifted a big weight. You know, I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't sad or anything. It was just a good time of my life. And then, of course, as a Muslim, you have to keep, keep this practicing going. Just if you do something once, it's not enough. You got to keep it going. As Iman is belief in the heart, as well as actions and sayings, which you have to keep going.